the weather forecast with Coloca in its multipurpose banquet hall, Il Palazzo.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and a pleasure to have you once more on the weather forecast. Hope you're enjoying the evening. Between tonight and tomorrow morning, we would have a calm weather across the nation with temperatures as low as 13 degrees in the west region. The northwest, Adamawa and far north regions will be as low as 14 degrees. We'll also have as low as 18 degrees in the littoral and central regions, with the southwest region having the least temperature at 17 degrees. Next, we take you over to the East region, where tonight there is no chance of precipitation in the entire region, and by morning will be the same experience with Abongbang and Betua having the least temperature at 18 degrees. Next, the South region tonight there is no chance of rainfall in the entire region, and by morning there's a possibility of a drizzle in Ebolova. And lastly, we go over to the North region, where tonight there is no possibility of rainfall, and same experience by morning with the least temperature at Garwa. I encourage you to make our time and take an adventurous trip to Gosh the Kola in the north. Thank you for watching, and do have a good night.
Senate President Masenya Jifenji receives New Year wishes from senators and personnel with a call for the love of their fatherland. Get the effervescence of this ceremony in this newscast. The entire teaching community in Cameroon salutes the bravery of their late colleague Boris Chakunte during his coffin at the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital mortuary today. The participation of disabled persons in the upcoming twin elections has been reviewed in Yaoundé today during a workshop attended by media practitioners. And those are our top stories. Thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News. As you heard in our top story, we begin with New Year wishes at the Senate office where Masenya Jifenji received New Year wishes. Charles Anyangwe comes back to that ceremony in this report.
After a long period of absence due to ill health, Senate President Masenya Jifenji is back and very strong. He was received with joy at his Yaoundé residence by senators and the staff of the Senate during the presentation of New Year wishes to him this Friday. Addressing senators and the entire staff of the Upper House of Parliament, Senate President Masenya Jifenji first of all expressed his gratitude to President Paul Biya for assisting him during the period when he was sick. He thanked senators and the entire staff of the Upper House of Parliament for their prayers that have made him well. In a brief statement delivered by the Secretary General of the Senate, Michel Mevamebutu, he expressed the firm determination of the entire staff to work closely with Senate President to ensure that parliamentary business for 2020 be a big success. He then wished President Masenya Jifenji and his entire family long life and prosperity for 2020. The entire staff, through their representative, handed over a bouquet of flowers to welcome back their president.
And keeping up the good work in maintaining peace and order across the country, especially in the northwest and southwest regions, as well as the far north region. Those were some of the recommendations of the Delegate General for National Security today as he received New Year wishes from personnel of the police corps. We have details of this report with Yoti Kale Lisonge.
This 2020 demands that the National Security Corps be all out to ensure the smooth conduct of the February 9 polls. In April, they will equally have the challenge to guarantee the security of the population and their property during the African Nations Championship. Duties these police officers affirm will be performed diligently, especially with the assistance of the task force at the National Video Surveillance Center in Yaoundé. Tackling issues which delay the printing of national identity cards and passports is another charge for the year.
In passports, the General Delegation for National Security has, under the strict instructions from the head of state, opened up negotiations in view of modernizing the process of delivering the travel document. The difficulties encountered by those demanding for passports have been there for a while.
sont conjoncturelles.
Well aware of the tasks ahead, they exchange New Year wishes with their boss to boost their morale as they brace up for their assignments.
And over 100 officers of the National Gendarmerie from Senegal, Congo, and Cameroon have graduated from as the 41st batch of students of the National Gendarmerie Officers Academy after 10 months of training. And this ceremony was presided over by the Secretary General in the Ministry of Defense in charge of the National Gendarmerie, Galax Etoga. We have details with Kilian Ndifon, who was there.
There are 89 of them, 85 from Cameroon, 2 from the Republic of Congo, and 2 from Senegal, who in 10 months at the National Gendarmerie Officers Academy have graduated with multifaceted skills.
Firstly, we had theoretical teachings, which were made up of judicial police, maintenance of law and order, and secondly, practical exercises, professional interventions, protections of high dignitaries. We were introduced, that is initiated, to these locally made improvised explosives, how to detect and how to destroy them.
The Secretary of State at the Ministry of Defense in charge of the National Gendarmerie, Galax Etoga, who chaired the graduation ceremony, told the laureates that they had 3 main challenges of getting operational immediately, efficiently playing their role of the gendarmerie of proximity with the population, and serving as models within a special security context in the country.
Lutte contre le terrorisme.
Fight against terrorism, maintain law and order, fight against highway delinquency, punish cyber crimes, ensure operational defense of the national territory, amongst others.
The gendarmerie boss warned that, as well-trained officers of the military, no mistake would be tolerated from any of them, reminding them that they should be proud and assume the honorable choice to serve in the National Gendarmerie.
And on our series tonight on tax innovations, we focus measures put in place to step revenue collection through export activities. Under the initiative of the Taxation Department, export activities are henceforth subject to taxpayers being duly registered in tax files. Clarice Takang tells us more in the following report.
Getting private sector operatives into the formal line has been a priority of the state in view of enhancing competitiveness. Studies from civil society organizations and a host of financial services indicate that the public treasury is losing hundreds of millions of CFA francs in fiscal revenue annually due to undeclared taxes. Working on putting order in taxpayers' statements of account was instrumental in publishing and updating information of those who figure on the file, obliging taxpayers to have their names on the list of taxpayers contained in the database of the Taxation Department as a prerequisite for import operations was met with success. The reform officials say led to an increase in taxpayers declaring themselves, pushing for an extension of the move. An identification number alone will no longer suffice. Prior to 2019, only importers were subject to abide by the measure. Importation procedures were added in order to reinforce the fight against tax evasion. The goal of the state is also to ensure that all those involved in import and export activities are duly identified and their transactions traceable. With the different actors duly sensitized, the hope is to see an increase in domestic revenue.
The Minister of Social Security, Gregoire Owona, says every Cameroonian has the right to live peacefully and participate fully in any activity of their choice wherever they find themselves without fear or harassment of any kind. He was speaking in Balmayo yesterday during a crisis meeting that brought together leaders of the Anglophone community and the West region living in the Nyong and So division. Luma Slim Davis traveled to the Nyong and So and completes that story.
The mission of the Minister of Labour and Social Security, who is also an elite of the Nyong and So division, Gregoire Owona in Balmayo, was one of appeasement. Gregoire Owona saw the necessity and urgency to broker peace.
We need a lot of change in our council here in Balmayo. It's a lot of problem. We don't have a place. Our brothers are coming from outside, concerning the world that we have, the ongoing world. So when they came here, in short, they are not really welcome. Anytime that they contact the mayor will send them back, go and see your Anglophone brothers. So in short, we don't know how to host them.
The minister assured the Anglophone population and those of the West region living in Barmayo that a solution to their grievances will be found through dialogue.
All those problems have to have a place. So we decided to put all them inside writing and table them to our brother, Chief Photo Victor. So we have present everything that we cannot talk of them here. So we heard most of our brother, we said we need a change. We don't need that mayor again. Concerning the reply from the minister, I was very, very happy. So I will go back to my community. I will tell them what we heard from the minister.
The leaders of the Anglophone communities and those of the West region pledged their support for the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, as they look forward to the next meeting.
Some 50 journalists drawn from Cameroon have been empowered in a capacity-building workshop on the participation of disabled persons in an electoral process, especially during the municipal and legislative elections on February 9. The training has been organized by a non-governmental organization, Sight Savers Cameroon in Yaoundé, as Clarence Nge tells us.
Disability is not inability. This was the key message of the workshop to the trainees this Friday in Yaoundé. It was organized by the non-governmental organization Sight Savers International Cameroon. The media practitioners were educated on their duties as the voice of the people to take into consideration the participation of the disabled ahead of the February 9 municipal and legislative elections.
People with disability have the right to participate fully in the development, the life of their community. And sometimes we think that disability is inability, and today we want to show that people with disability have competencies, have skill, and can be also candidate.
The disabled, especially the visually impaired who were part of the training, expressed their delight and wish their desire be realized.
After our interactions here, the media men not only consider us as people with deficiencies, but they'll consider us also as people who have potentialities.
As February 9 twin elections draw nearer, Sight Savers International Cameroon looks up to the equal participation of visually impaired in the electoral process.
Youths and other stakeholders involved in activities to mark the 54th Youth Day celebration in the Northwest region have been exhorted to ignore calls and boycott from people and massively give the splendor it deserves. The governor of the Northwest province of the Northwest region, Adolphe Lele Lafrique, was speaking during a meeting which he held in Bamenda. We have details with Mabel Mekende Sakem from Northwest.
Sporting as well as socio-cultural activities that will culminate in a march past on the 11th of February have been programmed to mark the National Youth Day celebration in the Northwest region. According to the March Past Committee, over 1,700 participants have for the past 3 years taken part in the March Past, a number that is expected to witness an increase following ongoing mobilization. Governor Adolphe Lele Lafrique's assessment of the underground work going on is positive. This explains his call for massive participation.
I seize therefore the opportunity to ask to the population of the Northwest region and foremost the young part of the population to mobilize themselves to give to that celebration a special expression of what they are able to do in nation building. I'm also asking them to raise like one man to fight against the ghost towns and the lockdown.
Addressing some financial constraints raised, the governor encouraged everybody to contribute to add to a special package of 2 million CFA francs to the region from the head of state, Paul Biya.
We are therefore grateful to the head of state for his support and to those donors for their contributions.
Activities to mark the 54th Youth Day celebration in the Northwest region will be launched on February 4.
And onto this obituary, the mortal remains of the mathematics college teacher Boris Chakunte, who was assassinated by a student in Government Bilingual High School, Colbison, have been removed in the University Teaching Hospital here in Yaoundé. His body was removed from the Yaoundé Teaching Hospital in the presence of authorities, colleagues, friends, and family members. We have details with Matute Menyoli from CRTV Center.
Thousands of mourners converged at the mortuary of the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital to pay their last respect to the 26-year-old Njomi Chakunte Boris, who passed on last January 14 after the unfortunate incident. His classmates and colleagues, who came out in their numbers in an outright show of solidarity, clad in their graduation robes, were joined by family members, friends, and authorities. Although a disagreement on the program and the type of honors to be given him almost mad things, the remains of the young teacher will be heading to Melon in the littoral region before landing at his native Bazoo in the west Saturday for burial. Mr. Njomi Chakunte was brutally stabbed some 2 weeks ago by a student of his class, Katiem Espanol, and he bled to death on his way to hospital. The circumstances of his death has raised so many questions on the issue of the growing concerns of security around schools.
In culture this weekend, there will be concerts and film projections in Boya, Yaoundé, and Douala. The film Saving Mbango is on the menu. Mathematic, the Petit Pays Makossa artists will be performing in Gaoundéré this weekend. More on the weekend's cultural agenda with Natasha Lehman-Losha.
We begin the weekend's cultural agenda with cinema. A film titled Saving Mbango Bankayang Kwai will be screened tonight at Mountain Hotel in Boya as from 8 p.m. Le Gendarme d'Abobo, a comedy film produced by Michel Gou and Anton Bassé, will also be projected tonight, but at a different venue, the Canal Olympia Hall in Yaoundé.
Il y a des terroristes à Bobo. Si Blanc te dit il y a des terroristes à Bobo, c'est qu'il y a des terroristes. Oui, chef.
Still in cinema, The Grudge will be screened on Sunday at the Canal Olympia Hall in Bessengue, Douala. In music, Makossa artist Mathematic de Petit Pays will perform this Saturday in Gaoundéré. It is part of activities to help LA can better pass across the messages to the electorate ahead of the twin February 9 municipal and legislative elections. The second edition of La Nuit du Patrimoine, a recap of our roots through the traditional dances of the 10 regions of the country, takes off today at the French Institute in Douala with a live performance at 8 p.m. Rising star Capital DVU will release his second hit track titled Tongolo this Saturday at 5 p.m. That's the package we gathered this weekend for you.
Few hours from now, the British will leave the European Union after 47 years of membership. The deadline is at midnight today after the European Parliament approved the withdrawal deal. And our chief international correspondent, Charles Ebune, has the report on the day of departure from the European Union.
Every nation for itself, God for we all, according to former British Prime Minister George Canning. And this is the day for the British people, the departure from the European Union.
From the 1st of February, the United Kingdom will be out of the European Union.
A market of roughly 66 million people, the United Kingdom leaves a roughly 500 million people association after 47 years of membership.
Brexit is a very important one, and we're proposing structures should be established, new structures to facilitate the type of familial relationships that we had developed together under the European umbrella.
The last cabinet meeting, somehow a cobra holds at Sunderland, the first English community announced to have voted for Brexit.
When they said it would be easy, turned out to be pretty complicated. When they said it would save lots of money that would all go to the National Health Service, it's costing a fortune. When they said it would be good for our economy, and we already see a vast hemorrhaging of jobs.
To depart from the European Union, the Association Parliament approved the withdrawal agreement already validated in the bicameral British Chamber.
Today, Elizabeth II, the Queen, signed the law approved by the British Parliament. For this, from the 1st of February, we will work for a new agreement between the European Union and the United Kingdom.
Today, the arguments for and against are out of bounds. The economics, politics and sports of the new United Kingdom have been worked out by the yesterday of this society.
The truth is that in 2020, the UK is the ultimate one-stop shop for the ambitious, growing international economy.
Time is now for trade deals, especially with the Commonwealth countries expected to be roughly $20 billion.
If you want investment in a new project or enterprise, just hop on the tube.
Out or in, the United Kingdom remains great. Well, small islands, great ideas, great people.
Today's departure of the British from the European Union marks a long period of history for the process, and the UK became a member of the association in 1973 and voted to lead back in 2016 through a referendum. Charles Ebune once more takes us memory lane about the departure.
June 23, 4 years ago, through a referendum, the British vote to leave the European Union.
I hope this victory brings down this failed project.
And this is followed by the renewal of the entire political class. Theresa May becomes Prime Minister. David Cameron resigns. A crash elections gives her a weak majority to set Article 50 for their divorce.
We'll go to Parliament and propose that the British people decide our future in Europe.
The May government works out a roughly 580-page withdrawal agreement. Multiple failure in Parliament forces her to resign.
Britain is better off inside the EU than out on our own.
The future of Scotland and Northern Ireland tear an already divided society on one of the thorniest issues, the departure from the European Union. May, a leading Eurosceptic, Boris Johnson, becomes Prime Minister and sets back the buttons from square one.
And that means we have the opportunity to make decisions.
A snap election a month ago gives him a majority. The withdrawal deal is approved, which outlines this January 31 as departure day. The will of the people has been done. Big Ben can ring.
And watch a program on Brexit on CRTV News at 10 p.m. with your host, Charles Ebune. And on to sports, boxing, volleyball, football, as well as freestyle are previewed this weekend on our sports menu. A Zone 3 boxing tournament rounds off in Yaoundé, while the 19 games of the Elite One are also programmed. Daniel Ekonde tells us more in this report.
Winners in the different categories of the Zone 3 boxing tournament will be known this Saturday. Boxers from Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea and Nigeria are in the bout. It is coming before Africa's Olympic boxing qualifying scheduled for February. The Open Volleyball Camtel 2020 competition also gets underway this weekend. There are 6 teams in the women's division as well as 7 in the men's. FAB and INGS are taking part. Both teams play in the categories this Saturday. In football, Elite One table leaders Cotton Sport have a trip to Young Sport Academy on Sunday. The 19th day of play also sees Panthère Sportif against PWD Bamenda, who are second, and Canon Yaoundé hosting Stade Renard at home. Last group stage matches of the CAF Champions League are also up this weekend. Congolese giants TP Mazembe, who have already qualified for the quarterfinals, host Zambia's Zesco United. But record winners Al Ali must beat Sudan's Al Hilal to guarantee a place. All 16 games come up on Saturday. There is also the 2020 Africa Futsal Cup of Nations heating up this weekend in Morocco. 8 nations, including the hosts, Egypt and Equatorial Guinea, are participating.
And on the esteemed instructions of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, will pay a working visit to Betua on Saturday, the 1st of February 2020. During his stay, he will visit ongoing projects being executed within the framework of the Triennial Emergency Plan, PLANUD. And the Director of Cabinet has signed this press release, Balugeli Ebune. And that does it on the 7:30 news. But before we take leave of you, Senate President Marcel Nyat-Njifenji received New Year wishes today from senators and personnel with a call for the love of their fatherland. And in this newscast, we got the effervescence of the ceremony. Meanwhile, the teaching staff in the teaching community in Cameroon saluted the brevity of their late colleague Boris Chakunte during his coffin at the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital mortuary. And lastly, the participation of disabled persons in the upcoming twin elections were also reviewed today in Yaoundé during a workshop attended by media practitioners. And do join Atabadine Umar in another 30 minutes with Louvain Bertrand. I'll be here tomorrow, same time. Until then, keep on enjoying interesting programs on your favorite channel, the CRTV. Good night.